When you're ready to take that first plunge into the Disney Cruise Line, no pun intended, kinda, you are going to want to remember quite a few things. Let's go over some of those things that I really recommend you do for that very first cruise. Now, we've gone over several things not to forget while cruising on the Disney Cruise Line, but today we're really focusing on that very first one, or if you're just kind of getting started, possibly the second cruise, but things you really want to prioritize so that first impression is the best it can be. Now, I want to start this video by mentioning that there are things about cruising that will no doubt be changed in the future. There is no doubt in my mind that there are several things that will never be the same, buffet dining, things like that, but today we're not really focusing on those things. We're focusing on other things to prioritize on that first Disney cruise. They wouldn't have been in there anyway. Now, although some of these things can definitely be useful on several different other cruise lines, I can only speak to the Disney Cruise Line because that's the only cruise I've taken so far. Let's start off with the planning process first, thinking about that cruise, and number one, this is the number one item. In order, you ready for this? Castaway Cay. Just make sure your cruise, that first one, goes to Castaway Cay. Trust me on this. Do that. Not only is it relaxing, tranquil, fantastic, and a great feeling all around, it is an iconic piece of the Disney Cruise Line. It's been around for a long time. We've come to love and enjoy it, and there are places for everyone on the island. The adult-only beach, the kids area, petting the stingrays, going snorkeling, whatever you want to do in terms of island fun, you can do it there, so highly recommend it. Next up on my list, if you're a little anxious like I was for your very first cruise, I recommend planning a land and sea adventure. Now, what is a land and sea adventure? Short version is, it's a combination of a Walt Disney World trip and a Disney cruise. Usually, and almost always, I recommend the land portion first, because you go, you go on those rides, have a great time, and the cruise is the relaxing portion. I recommend that to most of my friends. But if you feel a little bit of anxiety about that cruise the first time, and you're a little bit cautious, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, maybe it's not for me, you've watched the vlogs, you said to yourself, not so sure about it. Putting it first maybe, put your minds at ease a little bit so you can kind of go experience the new thing and then go to Walt Disney World that you know and love. Just an idea. The next one on our list is something I didn't think I'd ever have to use. I thought it would sit in my bag forever. I'd just never get any use out of it, but after our last cruise I found out that that was not the case. I highly recommend you bring some Dramamine or other motion sickness remedies. There are a lot of different products out there. The patch behind the ear, the wristband, even their special goggles now, which friends tell me about, which sound really cool, but there are a lot of different ways to kind of help with that motion sickness, things to look into. I recommend it. Just have it in your bag just in case. That's what I did, and I didn't need it until my 6th cruise, but when I needed it, I really needed it, so make sure that you pack it. Number 4, for your very first Disney cruise, I don't recommend an inside stateroom unless you know that's what you like. Now, I don't want to say that inside staterooms aren't great. They are. They really are. But for that very first cruise, I personally prefer a view of the ocean. You can see when the sun rises and sets from your room. It's super helpful and kind of cheery right in your room like that with the sun. But on the other hand, if you actually prefer not being so close to the water and not really knowing that you're on the water, perhaps inside is better for you. It's something to kind of weigh out for yourself. Those are a few pieces of the planning process, but what about while you're on board? First one here, make sure that you go to all of the table service dining that you're scheduled for. Even after 6 cruises, I really enjoy the table service dining. Somehow the entertainment, the service, the ability to kind of relax and just let it all be done for you, it's super nice and convenient. Yes, you can get other dining throughout the ship, no doubt about it. You can, but somehow that table service dining at the end of the night just brightens my day. Speaking of dining, the age-old question comes up here, early or late dining. I personally prefer late dining. I really do. Less kids there, so it's much quieter. That's just me at this stage of my life. I like the quieter meal right there. I don't mind eating a little bit later, but if you have kids with you, you want to make sure you get to bed a little bit earlier, then maybe early dining is right for you. There is no one right answer when it comes to what time to dine. The next thing I highly recommend for your very first Disney cruise is the photo package. The photos that you take on board are truly magical. They really are. They bring home that cruise adventure. You can go back, relive those memories, and they have a lot of stations throughout the ship where you take those photos. Most of them are located midship, near the lobby atrium, but you can take them with characters all around as well. There are usually 1 or 2 different packages when it comes to photos, maybe 10 print photos or all digital photos. I personally recommend all digital photos. Much easier to share that way rather than just all print photos. A little bit more expensive, but definitely recommend it, especially for that first cruise. Now, I do want to mention that if you purchase the photos in advance, you get a nice discount. So make sure you think about that in advance. Will I want the photos? If you're not sure, of course you can purchase them on board, but if you're pretty sure you're going to want them, I recommend buying them in advance. One thing that I have this terrible tendency of doing is overpacking. I am slowly getting over that, slowly but surely. But when it comes to the cruise ships, there's just less space in general, so only pack what you really need. That being said, don't not pack things you may need. Bring several different pairs of bathing suits because you likely will be changing throughout the day. Last but certainly not least, think about the different lanyards that you may want to bring on board with you. The reason why I bring this up now is because you can see I've got the Disney Cruise Line lanyards here. You only get these after you're part of the Castaway Club, meaning that you've been on a set number of cruises. This is between numbers cruises 2 and 5. This is cruises 6 through 10, and eventually we'll get Platinum, which is cruises 10 and up. So a lot of different cruises that you can go on together. The reason why you want to make sure you have a lanyard with a little pouch here is because this is how you're going to carry around your card around the ship. Makes it so much more convenient rather than having to put it in your wallet all the time. You're only going to need it once, that very first time, because every other time they're going to give you one of these lanyards, but that first time you want to make sure you bring one yourself. Those are my tips for your very first Disney cruise. Now, I'd love to hear from our Castaway Club member friends in the comments below. What is another tip that you would add to this for your very first Disney cruise that you really wish you knew? Love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me today. Until next time, have a magical day.